If I could prescribe one low-tech habit that changes the most systems in the body at once, it would not be a supplement, a cleanse, or a complicated workout plan. It would be walking, done daily, long enough to send your body one consistent message. We are not sitting through life anymore. And that message reaches farther than most people realize. Your blood sugar starts behaving differently. Your blood vessels respond differently. Stress chemistry shifts. Sleep pressure builds at the right time. Even hunger cues can become easier to read. What surprises most people is not that walking helps. It is how quickly certain changes begin, and how many people miss them because they are watching the wrong signal. They look only at the scale, while blood sugar, blood pressure, mood, and energy are already moving. They assume more sweat means more benefit, but one of the biggest wins can happen after a simple 10-minute walk. And if your knees or back have been bothering you, what changes next may be the opposite of what you fear. Subscribe so you do not miss the next step-by-step guide. So let's reset the question. When you start walking daily, what actually changes first? What changes later? And which of those changes matter enough to protect long-term health? The easiest way to understand all of it is through 4 levers: glucose, flow, rhythm, and load. Glucose is how your body handles sugar for fuel. Flow is circulation, meaning how well blood, oxygen, and nutrients move. Rhythm is timing, stress hormones, appetite signals, sleep pressure, and the body clock. Load is the physical force your joints, muscles, and heart must manage. Daily walking improves health because it steadies glucose, boosts flow, restores rhythm, and teaches your body to tolerate load better. Every benefit in this video fits inside one or more of those 4 levers. The first thing that often changes is blood sugar control, even before body weight changes enough to notice. When muscles contract during walking, they pull glucose out of the bloodstream and use it for energy. That means the same meal can create a smaller blood sugar spike when walking becomes routine. Most people think blood sugar is only a diabetes issue, but unstable glucose affects ordinary energy, cravings, brain fog, and afternoon crashes too. This is one reason some people say, "I did not lose much weight yet, but I feel more stable." They are often noticing better glucose handling before fat loss catches up. A common pattern I see is someone who feels sleepy after lunch, starts walking 10 minutes after that meal, and suddenly has fewer crashes by the end of the week. That is not magic. That is muscle acting like a sponge. Self-check this. If you regularly feel heavy, sleepy, or snack hungry 1 to 2 hours after meals, glucose may be one of your biggest levers. Recap. Daily walking changes blood sugar early, which can steady energy before the scale moves. The second change is in flow, and this is where daily walking starts acting like vascular maintenance. Your blood vessels are lined by a thin inner layer called the endothelium, which helps control how tightly or loosely vessels open. Walking repeatedly signals that lining to function better, so circulation becomes more responsive instead of more rigid. Over time, that matters for blood pressure, oxygen delivery, and how hard the heart has to work during ordinary life. Most people think heart health starts only when breathing gets hard, but much of cardiovascular protection comes from repeating moderate effort, often enough to train the system gently. Think of it like opening and closing a hinge every day, so it does not stiffen shut. That is different from forcing it once a week. If your body has been mostly sitting, circulation can become sluggish in quiet ways. Colder hands, getting winded on stairs, mild ankle swelling later in the day, or a pulse that jumps too fast with small tasks. Self-check this. On a flat walk, can you speak full sentences without gasping? And do you recover within a minute or 2 when you stop? That simple cue tells you a lot about flow and load together. Here is the part many people overlook. Better flow is not just about future disease risk. It changes the quality of the day you are living now. Better circulation improves delivery of oxygen and nutrients to working tissues, including muscle and brain. So some people notice clearer thinking, warmer extremities, fewer tension headaches, or less of that drained feeling after basic errands. And when flow stays poor for years, It pushes toward higher blood pressure, lower exercise tolerance, and a narrower margin before everyday stress feels overwhelming. This also begins to answer the knee question from earlier. Gentle, regular walking can improve joint nourishment because cartilage, the smooth tissue covering bone ends, does not have a rich blood supply of its own. It depends partly on movement and pressure changes to help exchange nutrients. That means the right amount of motion often helps stiff joints feel better, while complete inactivity can make them feel older than they are. Of course, more is not always better. Sharp pain, limping, chest pressure, or unusual shortness of breath are not signs to push through. But for many people, the body responds well to regular, manageable walking because flow improves before fitness feels dramatic. Walking improves vessel function and circulation, making daily energy and long-term heart health more resilient. I'm tightening the next chapter around the strongest evidence-based change so the script stays medically solid and consistent with the model. The third change is rhythm, and this is where daily walking starts helping people who say, "I'm tired all day, then somehow awake at night." Your body runs on internal timing signals. That includes cortisol, which helps you feel alert, melatonin, which helps prepare for sleep, and sleep pressure, which is the buildup of biological need for rest across the day. Walking, especially when it happens at a fairly regular time and gets you moving in daylight, can strengthen those timing cues. In plain language, it reminds the body when to be on and when to wind down. Most people think better sleep starts at bedtime, but often it starts much earlier with movement, light exposure, and a more predictable day. Here is what that looks like in real life. Someone begins walking 20 to 30 minutes most mornings. Nothing dramatic happens on day one. But by the end of the week, they feel slightly more awake earlier, a little less restless at night, and less dependent on that second late afternoon caffeine hit. That is rhythm starting to organize itself. And when rhythm improves, other levers benefit too. Better sleep can improve hunger control, glucose handling, patience, pain tolerance, and the desire to keep walking the next day. There is another layer here. Walking also helps drain stress chemistry, not erase stress, but process it. A brisk walk can lower that trapped, buzzing feeling many people carry in the chest, neck, and jaw after long hours of sitting and screen work. If stress stays high and sleep stays broken, it pushes toward higher appetite, worse blood sugar, lower recovery, and less motivation to move. That is why daily walking is so often more effective than people expect. It does not just train muscles, it helps the day stop spilling into the night. Self-check this. Are you sleepy in the morning, wired late at night, and reaching for sugar or caffeine just to feel normal? That pattern often points to rhythm needing help, not just willpower. Daily walking strengthens body timing, making sleep, stress, and appetite signals easier to regulate. Now let's talk about load, because this is where walking changes the body shape people live inside, even before major fat loss shows up. Load means the force your joints, muscles, heart, and lungs must handle. Daily walking raises your capacity to carry that force without feeling broken by ordinary life. Stairs feel less punishing. Standing longer feels easier. Getting up from a chair becomes smoother. That matters because fitness is not just performance, it is reserve. It is how much room your body has before daily tasks feel like strain. This is also where a common myth needs correcting. Most people think walking only counts if it leaves them exhausted, but the real driver is repeatable load. A manageable walk you can do 6 days a week usually beats an ambitious plan you abandon in 10 days. The body adapts to consistent signals. Muscles in the hips, calves, and core start coordinating better. Tendons, which connect muscle to bone, gradually tolerate force better. The heart does not need to race as hard for the same task. So even if your speed barely changes at first, your cost of movement often does. Here is a useful analogy. Imagine carrying groceries with weak handles versus stronger handles. The bags weigh the same, but the carrying feels different. Daily walking strengthens the handles. That is why people often report they feel lighter before they actually are lighter. This chapter also resolves part of the joint concern. Many people avoid walking because of stiffness, then become stiffer because they avoid walking. Gentle progressive loading is often better for joints than total rest. Not always, and not in every condition, but often. Start below the point that triggers a flare, then build gradually. If pain rises during the walk and stays worse the next day, the load was probably too high. Walking builds physical reserve by making ordinary load easier for the heart, muscles, and joints. The fifth change surprises people because it feels psychological, but it is strongly physical. Appetite becomes easier to read. Not perfect, not automatic, but clearer. When glucose is swinging and rhythm is off, hunger signals get noisy. You can feel tired and call it hunger. You can feel stressed and call it hunger. You can feel underslept and crave fast calories because the body wants quick relief. Daily walking helps separate those signals. Stable movement improves glucose use, supports sleep timing, and lowers stress intensity, which means cravings often become less chaotic. This is where many people get discouraged too early. They say, walking makes me hungrier, so it must not be working. Sometimes that happens at first, especially if the walk is longer than usual or you were barely eating enough to begin with. But over time, a common pattern is different. Fewer random cravings, less revenge snacking at night, and a better ability to stop when comfortably full. Most people think appetite is just discipline, but physiology drives far more of it than pride admits. Here is a practical self-check. After a week of daily walking, ask yourself 2 questions. Are my cravings showing up at the same times each day, or are they becoming less impulsive? And when I eat, do I feel satisfied sooner than before? Those are meaningful signals. They tell you rhythm and glucose may be stabilizing together. There is also a consequence here worth respecting. If appetite stays distorted by poor sleep, stress, and inactivity, it pushes toward gradual weight gain, worse glucose control, and a constant sense that health requires fighting yourself all day. Walking does not solve that overnight, but it often lowers the noise enough for better choices to become realistic. Walking can make hunger cues less chaotic by improving glucose stability, stress handling, and daily right cap. The 6th change is mood, but not in the vague, motivational way people often describe it. Daily walking changes mood through biology. Flow improves to the brain. Stress hormones become easier to regulate. Sleep starts repairing instead of merely interrupting fatigue. And load tolerance improves, which quietly restores confidence. That matters because feeling better is not just about chemicals. It is also about evidence. Every walk teaches the nervous system. I can still do this. For someone who has felt stuck, tired, or physically unreliable, that message is powerful. A common pattern I see is not sudden happiness. It is less friction, less irritability in the afternoon, less mental heaviness before basic tasks, less dread about starting movement because the body no longer treats it like a threat. That shift is important. When the brain predicts discomfort, you avoid activity. When the experience becomes manageable, avoidance weakens. That is one reason walking can become self-reinforcing in a healthy way. Most people think mood only improves after dramatic fitness change, but often the real driver is lower nervous system overload. Walking can act like a pressure valve, not a cure for depression, not a replacement for treatment, but a meaningful support for many people. And when low mood combines with poor sleep and low activity for long enough, it pushes towards social withdrawal, worse pain sensitivity, and a body that feels older than its calendar age. Here is the useful action point. Keep the walk easy enough that you finish with more steadiness, not more chaos. You are training consistency, not proving toughness. Daily walking supports mood by easing stress load, improving sleep, and rebuilding trust in your body. The 7th change is body composition, but this is where expectations need to become more intelligent. Yes, daily walking can help with fat loss, but the first meaningful change is often not dramatic weight loss. It is improved metabolic flexibility, meaning your body gets better at switching between stored energy and incoming food. In plain language, you become less stuck in the cycle of constant sitting, constant snacking, and low energy output. That matters because the body does not just respond to one hard workout. It responds to the total pattern of the week. This is the second myth correction worth remembering. Most people think walking is too gentle to matter for weight, but the real driver is accumulated energy use, plus better control of the levers that influence appetite, sleep, and glucose. A daily walk may not feel heroic. That is exactly why it works for real life. You can recover from it, repeat it, and build around it instead of needing days to compensate. There is also a trap here. If walking makes you feel virtuous enough to eat far more than usual, the scale may stall. That does not mean walking failed. It means one lever improved while another pulled against it. This is why I framed the whole topic through glucose, flow, rhythm, and load. Body composition changes best when all four begin moving in the same direction. A realistic case snapshot is this. Someone starts walking every day and notices looser waistbands before dramatic scale movement. That happens because inflammation, digestion, posture, and fluid balance can shift before large fat changes appear. Recap. Walking helps body composition most when it improves the whole weekly pattern, not just calorie burn. The eighth change is longevity of function, which is different from lifespan but closely connected to it. Lifespan is how long you live. Healthspan is how well you function while living. Daily walking supports healthspan because it protects multiple systems at once without demanding elite fitness, special equipment, or recovery you cannot afford. It keeps glucose from staying too erratic, flow from becoming too sluggish, rhythm from drifting too far off course, and load from feeling foreign every time the body has to work. That combination matters more than any single dramatic session. Here is the key point many people miss. The danger of inactivity is often quiet. It does not always announce itself with pain or obvious illness. It can look like slower recovery, less confidence on stairs, more stiffness after sitting, a rising resting heart rate, more dependence on caffeine, or the feeling that small physical tasks are becoming strangely expensive. That is the body losing reserve. Walking daily helps interrupt that decline early, while the slope is still shallow enough to change. This is also where the open loops come together. The post-meal crash from Chapter 1, the circulation changes from Chapter 2, the sleep disruption from Chapter 3, and the joint hesitation from Chapter 4 are not separate stories. They are different ways the same four levers show up in everyday life. When walking becomes regular, those levers begin reinforcing one another in a healthier direction. One more practical note. The best walking dose is the one you can repeat. For many people, 10 minutes after 1 or 2 meals is more transformative than a single long walk they rarely complete. Recap. Daily walking preserves health span by protecting metabolic, cardiovascular, sleep, and movement reserve at the same time. So what changes when you start walking daily? The short answer is this. Glucose steadies, flow improves, rhythm resets, and load becomes easier for your body to handle. That is the real reason walking changes so much more than fitness. It improves how you function. Your highest leverage next step is simple. Walk for 10 minutes after 1 meal every day this week and track your energy, sleep, and cravings. If this helped you think about walking in a smarter way, stay with me for the next guide. This video is for education only and is not personal medical advice. Talk to your clinician, especially if you have chest pain, severe shortness of breath, fainting, significant joint pain, or a known medical condition that changes exercise safety.